All right, let's get right into it. We're about to go on a pretty wild historical journey, one that starts with internet forums and somehow ends up 4,000 years in the past. It's a story about a seemingly private act that has obsessed empires, philosophers, and doctors for literally millennia. So, if you've spent any time online, you've probably seen it, right? Stuff like No Nut November, or entire communities of guys dedicated to not ejaculating. You gotta wonder, what is that all about? Is this some new internet trend, or are we just watching the latest chapter in a very, very old story? Okay, let's start with what's happening right now. The modern movement is probably best known by its internet name, NoFap. And here's the thing, it promises its followers way more than just self-control. It promises them superpowers. Now, this isn't some ancient tradition that just found its way online. Nope. The NoFap movement is a pure 21st century internet creation. It all started back in 2011 on Reddit, when a web developer named Alexander Rhodes stumbled across a scientific study that seemed like it unlocked some kind of biological cheat code. And this right here, this is the number that kicked the whole thing off. A 2003 study claimed that men who stopped for just 7 days saw their testosterone spike by almost 146%. Now, what's so fascinating is that this specific study was debunked years later. But it didn't matter. The idea it sparked was just too powerful, and the movement took on a life of its own. So what were these supposed superpowers? Well, for the guys who bought in, it was about a complete life overhaul. The community forums are just filled with stories from men who swear that abstaining cured their depression, gave them the confidence to finally get a girlfriend, and helped them tap into a new level of masculine power. But here's the twist. This whole anxiety about losing some kind of vital masculine energy, it is so much older than the internet. To really get the deep roots of NoFap, we have to go way back, thousands of years, to a time of ancient beliefs about the very essence of life itself. In ancient Indian Ayurvedic tradition, there's this concept called Shukradhatu. It's thought to be the seventh and most powerful substance in the body, the absolute essence of all your other tissues. And it wasn't just in one spot. They believed it was spread throughout your whole body, kind of like how juice is spread throughout a piece of sugar can. So losing it, that was seen as a loss of energy from your entire system. And this idea of semen as power wasn't just in India. Get this, around 1100 BCE, the ancient Babylonians were actually writing down sex omens. And their logic is something else. They believed that ejaculating during sex with a woman was a dangerous loss of power that could literally make you die young. But, and this is the bizarre part, masturbating after talking to a woman could bring you happiness. The key takeaway for them was crystal clear. You have to control your semen, deny it to women, and keep that power for yourself. Okay, let's jump forward in time, because in the 18th century, these ancient anxieties morphed into something way more intense. Self-pleasure wasn't just a loss of power anymore. It became a disease, a full-blown moral sickness that people thought could destroy not just the person, but society itself. This timeline shows just how terrifyingly fast things escalated. It all started with a misreading of the biblical story of Onan, which was really about inheritance law, not masturbation. Then in 1712, some pamphlet basically invents the disease of onanism. Pretty soon, even famous thinkers like Immanuel Kant are calling it worse than suicide. By the Victorian era, you have doctors inventing these horrifying devices, like rings with actual metal teeth to prevent erections. And it all culminates with guys like John Harvey Kellogg, yes, the cereal guy, pushing for horrific surgeries without anesthetic to cure what they called self-abuse. So, why the extreme paranoia? Well, because the fear was never just about one person. In the age of empires and social Darwinism, a man spilling his seed wasn't just wasting his personal energy, he was weakening the entire nation. Masturbation was seen as a sign of degeneracy that could cause civilizations to collapse, and this tied directly into all sorts of racist fears about purity and national strength. Then, as we roll into the 20th century, the whole conversation shifts again. The moral panic starts to fade out, and it's replaced by a new psychological idea that reframes the whole thing. Abstinence wasn't about avoiding sickness anymore, it became a tool for self-improvement. Sigmund Freud helped popularize what's known as the hydraulic model. The basic idea is that our sex drive, our libido, is a limited amount of energy, kind of like water in a pressurized system. If you block one outlet, say masturbation, that energy doesn't just vanish. It builds up and can be redirected into other, higher things, like your career or art or ambition. Sound familiar? This is the direct intellectual ancestor of the modern NoFap superpower promise. And this wasn't just some abstract theory in a book. In the 1920s, a procedure called the Steinach operation, which was basically a partial vasectomy, got super popular among men trying to rejuvenate themselves. One of its most famous fans was the poet W.B. Yeats. He claimed the operation, which was all about semen retention, literally revived his creative power. He was trying to channel his sexual energy directly into his poetry. So how does all this historical anxiety square with what we actually know today? Let's bring it back to the present and see how these deep-seated cultural beliefs clash with what modern medicine has to say. In a fascinating echo of those ancient Ayurvedic beliefs, there's a recognized condition called Tott syndrome, mostly found on the Indian subcontinent. Patients have this profound anxiety and even physical symptoms that all stem from the belief that they're losing their vital essence through semen, which they think leads to weakness and illness. And right here, you can really see the two worldviews collide. On one side, you have this cultural fear, where it's believed it takes 40 drops of blood to make 1 drop of semen, so losing it is a catastrophe. On the other side, the modern medical view couldn't be clearer. Masturbation is a normal, healthy activity, it's harmless, and it absolutely does not cause weakness or blindness or any of the other historical fears. In fact, far from being dangerous, medical science has actually identified a whole list of benefits. It's known to reduce stress, improve sleep, boost your mood. It can even play a really healthy role in your sex life by helping you understand your own body. The science pretty directly contradicts centuries of fear-mongering. So after tracing this whole obsession from ancient Babylon all the way to Reddit, what's the real story here? What does this 4,000-year-long war on self-pleasure actually tell us about ourselves? When you strip it all down, these movements are almost never just about the act itself. They are powerful metaphors for deeper anxieties, a fear of losing masculine power, paranoia about the decline of the nation, and this profound worry about the moral purity of the self. At its very core, it has always been about control. And that's the crucial takeaway. Whether it's an ancient Babylonian trying to get good luck, a Victorian man trying to save an empire, or a young guy today just trying to find his place, the impulse is exactly the same. In a world that so often feels chaotic and completely out of our hands, mastering your own body, your own urges, well, that can feel like the one thing you can truly control. And that kind of leaves us with one last question to chew on. From semen retention to moral panics, our deepest anxieties about society, about power, purity, control, have always been projected onto sex. So what do our modern obsessions, both for and against it, reveal about the world we're living in right now?